I gotta start. I've got a mat for him. I'm gonna call him tomorrow.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, citizens, council, and staff. Call the council meeting, regular council meeting for February 6th, 2016 to order. Clerk Hefner, could you call the roll?
Mayor Beckman?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brinkman? Here. Councilmember Cernanik?
Present.
Councilmember Clark? Councilmember Cole? Here. Councilmember Hopping? Councilmember Valdez?
We do have 4 members and a quorum, and each of the folks who is absent has checked in with me, and I understand their absence. Can you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an agenda that's been posted and presented to City Council, and I'd like to make a change to the agenda. Item number 7A would be a discussion of the neighborhood plans and to talk about an issue that has been being worked on for months. And I really believe it's in the best interest to have all 7 council members, or at least more than 4, available to discuss that. And so I'm going to move it from 7A to March 15th. Item number 4 on the public comment is the first of the public comment opportunities. We do 2 opportunities each evening. It's an opportunity for anyone to express opinions or ask questions that are not part of the public hearings, and there are no public hearings tonight. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment at the beginning of the meeting regarding the consent agenda and general business items. And again, I've moved that 1 item off the general business. We do have a consent agenda. An immediate response should not be expected. Anyone who'd like to speak during either public comment session, please sign in on the green card, which we've just gotten from the back. And I'll make sure I recognize anyone else who would like to, but it's helpful when I have it on this. Anyone who'd like to speak during either public comment, please sign in on the green cards. The first public comment sheet or green card, and the second public comment sheet card, green card. They're located usually on the table in the back, and there's still one back there for the second opportunity. We expect comments to be civil, and disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated. There's a 3-minute limit. I have 4 people who've expressed an interest to speak. Carol Fay, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Carol Fay, and I'm from Oak Brook. Our society is full of symbols. One of the symbols that's glaring me in the face is the time, which says that you don't want to hear much from me. Other symbol is the American flag behind you. That makes me think of the Pledge of Allegiance that we just did, and that makes me think of 12 years of school, where every day before school started, we recited the Pledge of Allegiance. I did some math. 30 seconds, roughly, for the Pledge of Allegiance times 12 years equals 18 hours saying the Pledge of Allegiance by the time most of us are 18. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Republic. What does that mean, republic? I refer then to the dictionary, another important symbol, and it has a couple important definitions. One of them states that the supreme power of the republic is in the citizens. Another says that the members have a certain equality. I'll give you copies of the definitions after this. My concern pertaining to the agenda is Part 3C of the legislative rules. I see that the mayor shall decide who is allowed to speak in what order, be it either a council member or a member of the audience, according to the first definition that I'll give you. The supreme power rests not with the elected representatives, but all of the citizens. Citizens are not the audience. Citizens are participants. According to the second definition that I'll give you, members have a certain equality. It's not just those that the mayor decides to allow. I don't enjoy being here. I get paid even less than you do, which isn't much, I hear. But as a school kid, I was drilled that it's my duty to participate in my government. And so I'm going to ask you to amend 3C of the legislative rules, and I'll pass what I request. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic to which it stands. Let's remember what those definitions are of what republic is. I'll pass that out to you right now.
Here, I'll do it. Here, I've got it.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Susan Thornton. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council. Susan Thornton, District 3 on West Easter Avenue. As someone who sat for 16 years where you're sitting tonight, I'm tired just even thinking about it. I've been observing your recent meetings and with much interest, and I have a few comments. First, I'm really thank you for your support for the omnibus program tonight. As you all know, it's a very important service for seniors and people who are disabled, so thank you for that. I'm also glad to see the legislative rules on your agenda tonight. You've been talking and talking about that, and I would urge you to stop spending time on process issues. Really, there's nothing complicated in those rules, and it's time to get on with the people's business. That's what you were elected to do, to look at the large issues, the big issues that affect the future for all of us. So thank you for doing that. I urge you to get on with that. I'm also glad to see that you're planning a housing study. You need to have good decisions and good information if you're going to make good decisions. And there's not much more important than housing. It's one of those key issues for the city's future and for a lot of people. Another issue I'm hoping you would address tonight is the COM plan. The neighborhood plans, as you know, are from 1981. They're no longer relevant. They were done before there were 100,000 people around us in Highlands Ranch and before light rail came in, and a lot has changed in the last 35 years. The single-family neighborhoods aren't going to change much, but residents should have the opportunity to talk about infrastructure issues such as building sidewalks and hiking paths, traffic calming, things that affect their neighborhoods directly. Finally, I want to urge City Council members to stop acting like lawyers. There's only one lawyer in this room, that's the city attorney. And she is well informed on the very complex and complicated issues that are involved with municipal law. And it's really important, in my opinion, to listen to her and to take her advice. She will do a lot to help keep you out of trouble. Larry Berkowitz was a city attorney when I was on the council. I always said he's the only man other than my father who said no to me more, that I couldn't do something. But it kept us out of a lot of trouble. So I urge you to listen to the city attorney, and thank you very much for listening to me, and thank you for your service to the community.
Thank you. Pam Chadbourne. 3 minutes.
I'm going to ask for the projector, please. I wanted to mention Resolution 16, 2016. The policy statement is a restatement of the language of the resolution. The policy statement for replacement of the omnibuses is really something like, do we want to replace things that are less than 10 years old with new ones? I want to understand that policy statement. That's the policy. It's not a restatement of the action. So I don't like that policy statement, and I think you ought to make it clearer. Next, Resolution 10, 2016. Attachment A is not filled out in the packet, at least. I'm very concerned about the privacy of all of the people who call. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Beckman, could you, the timer isn't on.
Oh, sorry, that's my bad.
Okay. And I'm very concerned about the privacy of all callers. There's nothing here to protect regular callers. What if all callers are turned over to the Connect project? I don't think there's enough protection here for the medical information of responders, of people who call our help number. Then for legislative rules, which I guess is 15-322. I had 6 quick comments, I hope. First off, 2D, study sessions. Council may vote or take a consensus to give direction to staff. Not a forum for public hearings. Agreed, it's not a forum for public hearings. It's also not a forum for public comment. I don't like that council can vote without an opportunity for public comment, and I'd like you to re-examine that. H, order of agenda. I don't agree with first public comment and second public comment. I think they should be combined at the beginning of the meeting. 3C, decorum. I think Carol already talked about that. What could be added here is something that says, subject to the other rules that have already been mentioned. The mayor will refer to those. And then take action if something's out of order. Under 4 parliamentary rules, I motion to call the question. I'd like you to add something that says only after all the members have been allowed to speak at least once. And then under Q, motion to adjourn. I've never really heard the vote of people to adjourn, and I'd like to hear that vote since it's part of the policy. Finally, for Resolution 16, actually I think it's 2015. Actually, this isn't finally. I wanted to compliment you for including the journal in the packet. Thank you very much. And finally, Resolution 17, 2016. Please don't pass this. This hasn't had adequate input by the public. There's a few things that are a problem here. One of the comments says public comment has been supportive, but that's not true. I know myself and Dan Flynn spoke against this. I'm also going to point out the priority for corridors, County Line and Little Temple and Mineral are low, and yet we're having a stationary study in that area, and those should be high.
Pam, you're running out of time. If you
Right.
could close it.
And so clearly, there hasn't been enough public comment. Some of these priorities are wrong for what we're trying to do right now. So I'd like you to not approve 17 and kick it back for more public input. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Breziak? You'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Carol Breziak. I live in the 4th District. This has to do with your legislative rules that you're talking about tonight. I know some of you don't like process, but process is important. Rules need to be followed, and the charter should not be ignored. It is careless to do so. Sections 36 and 37 of the charter states that the council shall act only by ordinance, resolution, or motion, and the ayes and nays shall be taken upon the passage of all ordinances, resolutions, and motions, and entered into the journal. The point of me pointing out these two sections of the charter is to inform you that you have been making decisions outside the limits of the charter. Polling is defined as recording the opinion of or the vote of. On January 26, Mr. Beckman polled the council on changing the start time of your meeting from 6:30 to 7. A second discussion on the start time took place on February 2nd. Mr. Beckman wanted to move the start time back to 6:30 and once again polled the council. In both instances, future council meetings were rescheduled to reflect the decisions made on January 26th and February 2nd to change the start time of your meetings. The legislative rules that dictate the start time of your meetings has never been updated to reflect any change because they have yet to be approved. However, this council has acted twice on decisions that were made in study sessions by a majority of the membership, and the decisions are not recorded in the council journal. Mr. Clark's suggestion that the council approve the journal appears to be a good suggestion and one that should be reconsidered under the circumstances. I'd also like to address your study sessions. The open meetings law says that when you make a decision, you have to provide the citizens a prompt recording of your minutes. And our charter says that there needs to be a journal that reflects the ayes and nays. So if you're going to be voting in a study session, don't call it a study session, call it a special meeting. Anytime you take a vote, the citizens ought to be allowed to voice an opinion before a vote is taken. A study session is a clear indication that there will be no decision made in that meeting. It is just what it says. It's a session for you to take something under study. Decisions are made in regular and special meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the people that I had signed up. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Please. And you'll have 3 minutes, and if you'd just give us your name.
My name is Melody Shiasmi. I live on Elati Street between Ridge Road and Euclid Junior High. And our block is inundated with vehicles and cars. And I was wishing that possibly you could put a tax on the property owners who have above a certain number of cars or vehicles that have been identified. We actually had a neighbor who had 9 cars and 2 boats, but fortunately, a highway patrolman bought the house next door, and within 1 week, it was down to 2 cars and 1 boat. I also would like Grandpa Acres to be changed to Grandpa and Grandma Acres, and I also wish we could have rain barrels. Thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to item number 5 on the consent agenda. The consent agenda items can be adopted by a single motion. All ordinances must be read by title prior to vote on the motion. Any consent agenda item may be removed at the request of a council member. Item number 5A is Resolution 16-2016, a resolution approving a grant agreement with the Colorado Department of Transportation, Division of Transit and Rail, for the purchase of 2 buses for the omnibus program. Item number 5B is a Resolution 10-2016, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding and business associate agreement with the Colorado Springs Fire Department for the Connect Colorado Mobile Integration Health Demonstration Project. Item number 5C is ID number 15-322. That's a motion to approve the council's 2016-2017 legislative rules. Item number D is Resolution 18-2016. It's a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with Arapahoe County concerning community service case management. Item number E is ID number 16-25, a certification of the February 2nd, 2016 regular meeting minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda items and a second. Are we ready to vote? Phil, did you show?
Phil, turn off.
Reach over and turn off Councilmember Hopping. Thank you.
There you go.
The vote is in favor with, unanimously.
Let the record show that I did not change Mr. Hopkins before.
We have no item number 6, no ordinances for second reading or public hearing. And in general business, we've moved the item 7A to March 15th. That does bring us to the second session for public comment. If there is any further public comment, we have a green sheet on the back of the room. Thank you. This is a second opportunity for public comment. And again, public comment's an opportunity for anyone to express opinions or ask questions that are not part of the public hearings. An immediate response should not be expected. I have people who filled out the green card, and we'll take those in number. We expect comments to be civil. Disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated, and there is a 3-minute time limit. Patrick Fitzgerald. Sir, you have 3 minutes.
I'm Patrick Fitzgerald, a Colorado professional civil engineer. I have one question for you tonight, and I would appreciate the courtesy of an answer. This weekend, I observed that the crew which erected the temporary construction fence at the Grove site on Littleton Boulevard knows how to comply with the city code that requires a certain sight triangle at that intersection, a certain area of unobstructed vision. The question is, why did you, Mr. Penny, wherever he is, former Mayor Cernanik, and the majority of council allow and encourage Zocalo to plan to put their building 12 feet inside of that area where no building is allowed? I wait your answer.
Sir, we really don't answer those questions in the council because we're not prepared as council members to provide that kind of technical response. It's referred to staff. Mr. Penny, perhaps can find an answer to that, or we'll have his staff respond back directly with you.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd get one.
Well, sir, I'm sorry that we're not that technically educated on the issue that you're raising to us tonight for the first time, for us to be prepared to answer. So Mr. Penny and staff should be able to respond with a question, with your question answered appropriately. Don Bruns, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Council. Don Bruns, live on Costilla Street in District 4. Follow-up remarks council members made to observations I presented 2 weeks ago regarding the Littleton Parks Recreation Trails Master Plan were so provocative, they begged for follow-up observations. It was good to hear Councilman Cernanik acknowledge Frederick Law Olmsted's emphasis on parkland quietude. Indeed, that advocacy for maintenance of place character prompted Justin Martin to entitle his Olmsted biography, Genius of Place. Don't you love it? Councilwoman Brinkman added that it was not the council's intent to address open space, only parks, recreation, and trails. That suggests you may not have heard what study participants actually said. Presented with the chance to spend 100 hypothetical dollars, it was reported that participants directed $74 towards open space acquisition. But was that not exactly their point? We value this more than facilities and programs, yes, even within a recreation and trails assessment context. But to be more helpful, more must be said. Please do not take what I'm about to say in the wrong way. The reason it's difficult to hear the message study participants sent is that our minds have first to be prepared to accept it. The old recreation model that puts parkland and open space in separate boxes and focuses on facilities and programs is terribly limiting. I know because I was once there. Then, insightful recreation program experts like Driver and Crompton taught us how to get beyond activity, program, and facility management. It is not impossible to explicitly structure services so that they maintain rather than erode publicly valued setting and service character of both open space and parklands and deliver outcomes that benefit rather than degrade the lives of affected publics. There's a third reason why separating open space from parklands and compartmentalizing facility and program services is not optimally responsive to those being served. There's a spectrum of setting and service character for all outdoor recreation amenities, including both parklands and open space, and ranging from undeveloped to intensively developed. That character is a chief concern of affected publics, households, and communities because it profoundly affects their quality of life. Public recreation desires therefore go well beyond facilities and programs, and they are place-specific. Sense of place matters a great deal to most affected publics. A fourth reason for a more holistically integrated recreation assessment construct is explained by the NRPA's nationwide study of public support for local parks and recreation. They found that 80% of non-park users say that local park areas provide benefits to their community and that people do not have to directly use local park and recreation areas to believe that they, other members of their household, and especially the community at large benefit from having local parks in their area.
Don, we've reached the end of the 3 minutes. Can you
I have
reach a
one other
conclusion?
paragraph, but you can read that, and I'll leave you copies.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Melody, would you like to, you've spoken already? Thank you. Thank you. I have no one else on the list. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Three minutes.
I'm Carol Breezak, and I live in the 4th District still. At the last regular meeting, I was here to address the sales tax increment for urban renewal. I asked why the base for sales tax increment had not been established. I asked this question months ago, 2 weeks ago, and I still don't have an answer. The January 19th decision by Judge Pratt on the timing of the urban renewal increment makes it very clear, even to those that don't think they can read and understand the law, that the increment for all urban renewal plans begins the day the plans are approved if the provision is in the plans. The question remains, when will the base for sales tax increment be established for Littleton's 4 urban renewal plans? Remarks have been made about the law and how reading and understanding the law should be left to the attorneys. The law is left in the hands of citizens each and every day in courtrooms all over the United States, not to mention that the laws we all have to follow daily, we understand. It is not suggested that there is only one opinion that matters, or it has been suggested. To listen to the advice of one attorney is foolish as well. Attorneys go to court to face one another every day, and one of them will come out having lost. Attorneys are not infallible. Do not make an attempt to read and understand the urban renewal law, the open meetings law, or even the city charter, only to defer to the city attorney is not fulfilling your role as a representative of the citizens that elected you. I have worked hard to understand the urban renewal law and the open meetings law, and I know there are multiple resources available to any citizen, elected or not, to understand the law. All it takes is perseverance and knowing who to ask to help with the task. It certainly isn't fun, but it should be a necessary step for you to undertake before voting on matters of the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Will there be anybody else who'd like to address council this evening? And I see none. This brings us to item 9 on the agenda, which is comments and reports. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things this evening. In case you missed it, hopefully you did not, Engine 12 was one of the fire engines that participated in the Denver Broncos parade last week. We proudly carried kicker Brandon McManus and his family. Last Thursday, I guess, staff estimates about 35 people, and I think we had council members Cole and Mayor Beckman attended the Kettering Lake Well project. It was a very good turnout, and we had some great comments, and we're looking at making some amendments to it based upon the community input. You may have noticed a lot of work going on in this building. Demolition today started on the print shop, and it's being renamed the Visual Communications. Kelly Nardi, continuous improvement under her department. And there's also a lot of work going on in Public Works and Community Development as we continue to streamline our workflows. We have new, as you all know, we have a new Community Development Director and new Public Works Director, and they've done some reorganizations, and council gave us some additional staff this year, so we're trying to squeeze more people into this building. So we've got narrow little offices, but we're managing to make it all work at this point, so just bear with us as we continue the remodels. Councilmember Valdez recently asked about the website. Staff's been working on many months for the upgrade of the site. As I believe you know, our site's not mobile friendly. It does not amend to different tablets and phones, and about 40% and growing of our visitors access it from a mobile site. So that's one of our primary goals in making this change. It's been a really collaborative process with the staff, getting feedback from the public on how they want to navigate around the new site, and we're hoping to launch it in April or May. We had almost 600,000 visitors last year. Chief Armstrong received an email February 10th from a woman who said, quote, "Last night I had a small kitchen fire in my apartment. The experience was very scary, but all of the wonderful staff that showed up were incredibly kind, compassionate, and reassuring that it eased my stress and fear." She specifically wanted to acknowledge Lieutenant Blanco, who went above and beyond with his assistance. We provided them a relief check, which is a check that comes from the association members, which helped more than you guys will ever know. He also invited my children inside the house, inside the firehouse, to show them the fire truck and ambulance. Then he took time out of his own busy day to contact the Red Cross on her behalf for additional assistance. She's completely blown away by what an amazing human being is and what a great staff we have. She wanted to let you know in hopes that someone in addition to myself will acknowledge and recognize his efforts. End quote. Thank you again from the deepest part of my heart and soul for everything that you do, everything that all of Littleton Fire and Rescue Team does, and especially Station 13 and Lieutenant Blanco. My faith in humanity is uplifted by this experience. Save the date for you, Wednesday, June 1st for the Board and Commission dinner. It will be at Hudson Gardens again, but we're going to really change it up this year and make it more of a celebration of our volunteers and less of a formal program. This Thursday, Mayor Beckman will be speaking at 7:30 at the First Bank Community Leaders Forum at Arapahoe Community College, and I know he's excited about that opportunity. And that's all for this evening. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Cole.
A couple of comments. Sorry, I'm still getting over some kind of creeping crud, so my tummy's not happy. So in response to a couple of things citizens said, in our parliamentary rules, in the council legislative rules, it does allow for every council member to speak. In the section with the heading Debate Limitation. It says, "No member shall be allowed to speak more than once to a motion before all members have had an opportunity to speak." I had the same concern preparing for council tonight that the speaker had, and when I saw that particular piece, I realized it does include the right for every single council member on every motion to speak if at least once if they choose to. So that's in response to that. Then please, I have asked this before, if you have extensive comments to council, and I do appreciate the extensive comments, I wish that you would send them to council before meetings. Then if you want to come and for public, share the gist of what you're saying, but really would appreciate receiving them in email so that I can really study them and give them adequate attention. Then on a happy note, a reminder to everybody that the annual Eye of the Camera exhibit will open this Friday at the museum. The Eye of the Camera is, you might suspect that exhibit is photography, and it is always, I think, an incredible exhibit. So I hope maybe you'll get to do something joyful in life and visit that exhibit when it opens. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cernanek.
Sure, and I'll follow up on Councilmember Cole's comment about the Eye of the Camera. I've had a chance to distribute a couple additional city calendars, and folks have been amazed at the photography from some of our citizens that have occurred. And one was quite appreciative because her daughter has moved away to a place that's not Littleton, and it gives her a chance to kind of feel like she's at home. To Melody's comment about rain barrels, there is a piece of legislation that is being brought before the legislature in this session that deals with broader use of rain barrels in our communities. And the reason for that is because it deals with the state's water right provisions and beneficial first use. And so it becomes much more of a state as opposed to a local jurisdiction just on that one. So, okay. And then to Don's comment on the parklands versus open space, it was one of the first things I had a chance to do when I was with South Suburban, is dealing with the use of fields during growing seasons where competition was scheduled by a state association and not the local park and recreation, but talking about the conflict between the use of space that's out there. And to Pam's comment about attachment A not being completed, I think that's referenced in section 10C, and that would be an administratively completed component of that. And I'll go out on the limb and maybe mention a little bit of the differential between a framework plan and a specific development plan, and possibly being part of the response to the question that Carol brought up, but as far as that's concerned. But I do want to mention to folks, you've probably seen on the news or in the newspaper a little bit of an issue around hospital provider fee, whether it can be considered as an enterprise fund or otherwise. And I wanted to give folks an opportunity tomorrow morning at 7:30, so that's 7:30 a.m. at the South Metro Denver Chamber. There is a discussion that's going to be about whether it's constitutional or not. These are not necessarily attorneys, although they are members of the legislature. We'll be discussing some of that, and I expect that no matter how a decision comes down this year, that it will be a multi-year resolution on this, because I think there will be a challenge no matter which way it goes. So,
Bill, tell them where that meeting is. You said where, but tell them the location.
Okay, the South Metro Denver Chamber is across from Ivy on the Green in South Glen. Is probably the easiest way. They'll have a little sandwich board outside the front door to the facility tomorrow morning, and it will be there, and then we should have some fun. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Brinkman, please.
I have no report.
I want to comment on the journal, which has been an item of discussion several different council meetings, and was tied in with a discussion about minutes and what could be done and not done to make things more accessible on the website. I think the feeling of most of the council members was that our website has been difficult to maneuver through, and I know that there is a rebuild of that website going on at this very moment, actually, to make that much more user-friendly. It'll also make it more friendly to be used with a smartphone app. So that is part of the response. But the other part was that if somebody was only trying to visually look at a record and find a place where something may or may not have happened at a council meeting, because of the challenge of getting into the video was pretty tough. And so we had arrived at the idea of the Clerk's Journal, meeting that need. Now, the Clerk's Journal has been posted on the webpage for the meeting that occurred 2 weeks ago. It's going to be posted for tonight's meeting, and in the future will be posted for future meetings. You might want to take a look at that, and I think it's going to answer many of the concerns, including council's, of being able to look at a meeting, have a feel for what happened, who was present, what was voted on, and those kinds of things, which would then hopefully get you into what is going to be, when it's installed, a better video record. So I think that's progress, and we're getting somewhere, and I wanted to mention it. And thank you to the clerk for working on this, because this has been a tough issue, because it's technical. It's involved some technical and operational changes in that web page. I want to adjourn the meeting, but one of the citizens' comments was that I can't do it except a certain way. And I'll point to item Q. It has 3 sentences in it, but I'm going to read the first 2. At the conclusion of business, the mayor may declare the meeting adjourned without waiting for a motion or a member to move to adjourn. Sentence 2 is a motion to adjourn by a member is not debatable, and a majority vote of the members present is required for passage. So as the mayor, I can declare the meeting adjourned, and we've done it that way for probably as long as I can ever remember the council meeting, if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. So with that, we're adjourned.
Nice.